Welcome to the Greg and Camille Baroni Center podcast, Inside the Business of Government, where policy meets practice. I'm your host, Mike Derrios, pulling back the curtain on how government really buys what it needs, from major systems to everyday mission essentials. Produced by the Baroni Center at the George Mason University Costello College of Business. Hear lively, candid conversations with the leaders and practitioners shaping federal acquisition. Let's get started. Hello to our listeners. Today I am welcoming Alexa Tsui, CEO of Forum, to the podcast. Alexa, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for the invite. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I was super flattered you asked, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, I wanted you to come on the show because we're at a critical point in government contracting, and you've been at the forefront of this world for a long time. Why don't we just start there? How'd you get into the government contracting space?
Oh, what a fun story. Sometimes I think back on the journey, I'm just like, wow, what a ride. So, yeah, I actually jumped on the scene when I was about 27, so many, many years ago. I was hired by GovWin. Back then it was called Input, and I was lucky enough to be on the customer success team, and I came in from a totally different career. I was an English teacher at the college level for like teaching English as a second language. And so when I came in and they interviewed me, they were like, yeah, we want you to train people and get them to use the tool and this and that. I was like, well, I'm a trained educator. I can train people. That's no problem. I was like, but I have one problem. I don't think I've said the word procurement in my entire life. I don't even know what that word means when it pertains to federal stuff. So, and they were like, don't worry, we'll train you. That'll be great. And you know what? They were right. It was once I figured that out and paired it with the customer success thing, and that was kind of how I got my start.
Wow, go figure. So there's a nexus to academia. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, Alexa, today we're chatting about winning the work, how go-to-market has changed. And speaking of educating, why don't you help to educate our audience on what, in your words, go-to-market really means? Because a lot of people have different definitions of it.
Yes, and that's, well, I think people have different definitions of BD and capture too. I think that is the crux of the problem, right? When everybody has a different idea of what it is that we're doing here. Yeah. So I actually am a BD career and capture like executive. I've been doing that line of work almost my whole career after I left the market intelligence space. So what happened was I think it was probably COVID, when everybody stopped being in the office, because that was really our way of doing BD and capture. We'd get badged in, we'd go see our customers, we'd buy Dunkin' Donuts, we'd
walk the halls.
Walk the halls, yeah, it was great. And you always, hand out your donuts and find out about budgets and talk to your friends, and like that's how the industry worked for so many years, right? And then COVID happened, and we're like, oh wow, we're not actually meeting people in the office anymore. How does this work? That was the beginning. And then in 2025, what people don't realize is that the whole procurement board of monopoly was replaced. Like they literally pulled out that board and replaced it with this new game called Risk. Have you played that game? Old school game where you have to get little armies. So, I'm going to tie this back to your exact question, which is what is the definition? So it is basically taking the siloed approach of responding to a bunch of RFIs, being really reactive, and then kind of like once you hear back on an RFI, RFP, go, no go, then you push it into capture, and then you put your team together, and then you put your solutions together. So it's basically taking all of those actions and turning them into an engine, rather than a this leads to that, leads to this, leads to that. So it's more like, okay, taking a look at the way that Silicon Valley or commercial does it, right? Figuring out, okay, what's my ICP, which is my ideal customer profile. Right? And so that means that you have to get really mission focused. Like, what are we the best at delivering? And where are the proof points in that? And then how do we tell stories with those proof points, developing trust signals, and where do we put those? How do we approach the event space? What is the strategy behind our events kind of tactics, right? And then it is, I'm not saying get rid of your BD and capture folks, but like put them in an engine with the whole team and have the whole team working together.
Integrated.
And then have this be a flywheel that's constantly feeding itself from the ops teams that are actually on the ground, right? And one thing that people don't realize is like, whatever you're telling people when you're trying to hire them, and whatever you're telling your PMs on the ground, is it the same story that you're telling the customers when you're going after work? That's the circle I'm talking about. That's the engine.
So what's changed? I mean, you talked about how COVID threw us all a curveball, and BD and Capture, it pivoted slightly, but obviously the acquisition landscape, has definitely changed. So many things are different now. Contract consolidation, small business programs, just a lot happening in this space. How should companies be thinking differently about going to market with that backdrop? I mean, is it the way you approach customers that needs to change, or is it more of an inward-facing change that needs to happen inside of the company?
I think it needs to be several things at one time. I think it needs to completely change. I think companies, especially the smalls and mid-market companies, need to punch above their weight class, and they need to really do a whole new branding approach. And that's part of go-to-market, honestly, is like the StratCom, the branding, and then how does that feed into your pipeline, right? So one of the things that we do at Forum is we take your pipeline and we run it through our StratCom view. And if your StratCom isn't matching your pipeline, then we change it. We change your capability statements, we change your decks, we change everything. So that way everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. One of our customers was like, hey, I asked them 3 different people in the room, what is it that you all do for the government? 3 different answers. We're talking about 3 people, same company. And so it's like getting everybody on the same page about what kind of company this is, what is your value statement to the government, what do you do the best, and how can you really get that signal out in front of the government more. But that's all internal work that you need to do before you ever get in front of a customer.
Right. Yeah.
And the problem is that so many of these companies are a little bit half-baked, and they're like, just run down the street with it. Like, just let's go run down the street with, what it is that we think we do. But then you've got people on the ground saying something different, this guy saying something different. And so it's really trying to just get everybody on the same page, singing from the same sheet of music, and then making sure that that delivery matches it.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. How you tell the story is critical, but what's your story?
Right. What's the story?
I mean, when I was on the government side, obviously had a lot of meetings with a lot of companies over a 30-year career. And you could always tell the companies that were prepared just getting the calendar space is tough.
Yes. Especially with you. You were one of the hottest government meetings to get.
Good to know. Good to know that people thought that. It's tough to make, the time to talk to companies, but when you give them that platform, the expectation is, hey, you've done your research, you've thought about my mission challenges, you've tracked the signals, you've tracked the signals, you know where the budgets are going, you know how the money is flowing inside of the agency, you know who the power brokers are, who the decision makers are, and you know that this is just the first meeting of, hopefully a couple that will lead to maybe something that looks like a technical briefing or a pilot or a demo so that you can show me what you got.
Right.
And companies that aren't prepared for that and just think that, well, I'm coming in to pitch my CAPE statement and tell you about how, patriotic I am and I want to do business with the government. That's not go to market.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
It lacks the thought leadership.
Right. And that's, and I want to come back to like the zeitgeist of where we are, right? So as a watershed moment of AI also changing the way that industry is responding to government proposals, right? They're using AI to write proposals, and unfortunately, without a lot of changes to it, right? So we get all these proposals that look exactly the same, but what's going to start winning, Mike, is storytelling. Yeah. And I love that you brought that word up, because that's a big thing for us as well, is like, let's get your story straight, and it starts with you. Like, and why would somebody buy from you? And that's why I brought one of the best branding companies in the country to come work with Forum, was because I needed his brain about the buy psychology, right? What is it about your company that's different from the 72,000 other services firms out there that look and smell just like your firm, right? How do we get that story right?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And so there's a lot that these small and mid markets, and the big companies have been doing this, right? I don't think I need to tell Leidos how to go to market.
Right.
Leidos has been going to market for a while, right?
Right.
But the small and mids, and even those bigger mid companies, and I'm not going to name anybody, but they need the help the most, because they're the ones who are really going to struggle in this new space.
Yeah, it is a new space. you know, I think companies are being asked, GovCon companies are being asked to think like commercial companies for the first time, frankly. And there might be an overreaction to, you know, what that looks like. Well, maybe we need to invest more in our capture teams or our BD teams, or maybe less, or, you know, what do you think about that? I mean, how do companies need to be acting more like commercial firms in this space?
Yeah, if you were, you know, even paying half attention in 2025 and watching Palantir come in and just eat the lunch of, you know, a lot of GovCon companies. And what does that mean, though? What signal is that giving folks? It not just Palantir either. There's a lot of other Silicon Valley type of companies that are coming in. And really, they lead with innovation. They lead with the outcomes. And that is the answer to your question. It's like you're no longer leading with the capabilities, you're leading with the outcomes. Right? And those commercial companies, they have always done that. They've go-to-market means lead with your outcomes, lead with why somebody wants to hire you. And I think that for most of GovCon, they lead with their capabilities, they lead with their experience, they past performance. You know, you can call up this other customer, but it's like, I don't care about any of that. Like, we want to move differently, we want to buy differently, we want to buy with CSOs and OTAs and BAAs, and that's a whole different way of moving. So then how are you then going to get agile? And so I have another friend who's taking this new role, and she was like, she's taking the HR role. And she's like, I got in there, and they are a $400 million company, have never changed their hiring processes in 15 years.
Wow.
So it starts inside.
Yeah.
It starts with your culture, basically. Like, how do you get the culture to be like, look alive, GovCon, look alive?
Yeah. I love that you said that. Not to plug Baroni Center too much, but we are doing a white paper on this very topic about operating models in the GovCon space and how they need to change. That's going to be coming out soon. You know, so you talked a little bit about you know, different ways to access the market. Let's pull on that thread a little bit. So there are different ways now. There are OTAs when the agency has OTA authority. I always have to preface that. A lot of people are talking about OTAs and they don't realize, well, that agency actually doesn't have the authority to do an OTA. But you know, CSOs, CIBR is you know, starting to heat up a little bit. So that takes me to shaping. You know, how can companies effectively shape opportunities in today's market? And can you elaborate a little bit for maybe, you know, especially the micro company that doesn't even understand what that concept is just yet? What does that mean to try to shape an opportunity?
I'm going to give you two different examples. One of my customers, you know, they did some really kind of unique, cool work with TBM, CIPIC type of stuff, right? And especially on the consulting side, like helping the government understand what IT systems you have and what should be sunsetted and what should be brought in and what's the usage across and all that stuff. That's very still hot, even though some, you know, folks might think it's all dead. Trust me, it's not. What I told her was like, hey, I was reading a GAO report, you know, like one does in their free time. And that report was talking.
Wait. Are you a GovCon nerd? Just a minute.
I
On
know,
this
right?
podcast, are you a GovCon nerd?
I am.
All right.
I think we should have our own version of Jeopardy just for GovCon nerds to go and play and feel smart. Because yes, I was reading a GAO report, and it was an agency getting literally roasted for not having their TBM and CIPIC ducks in a row. And I basically pulled it up and said, let me show you the best way to tell the future is to create it. Read this GAO report. It has 2 points of contact at the bottom, right? Write a capabilities white paper briefing to this GAO report. This is what's keeping the CIO up at night. I'm telling you, he's getting roasted on this publicly. Right. You know, he's the one who's being brought to the carpet for this. Write this for him, but then also figure out who's the TBM, CIPIC lead in the company, in the agency, and then write it for that person as well. Get both of them on an email thread and get it out there. And that's how you create an opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. It goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier about, you know, learn my mission.
Yeah.
You know, learn my mission, understand what my technology challenges are, understand what's keeping me up at night and what, you know, Congress is paying attention to at my agency, and figure out how you can help me to solve problems that I haven't defined yet.
Yes, and that's the key. I haven't defined yet. So another thing I always try to counsel my customers on is if you see an RFI.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you about this.
Give them an unsolicited proposal. Immediately. Give them the keys to something you've already built. say, I saw your RFI and I responded. Make sure you do that part. I responded to it. Yes, I did. Also, I actually have something ready for you right now. I built it all out based on what you had put in the RFI. I have dummy data in there. Can I get 30 minutes of your time to walk you through exactly what you need?
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. So I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I hear debates among companies about whether or not they should invest in responding to RFIs. I'm going to withhold my opinion. I want yours first.
It's funny too because it's recently changed, and I was so well known for saying what I used to say. So I'll tell you, even me, I'm evolving, right? So at first, I was always like, look, as a small business, you have to get your name out there. You have to be submitting these RFIs. But then AI popped on the scene, entered the chat, and I'm not saying just put in all these RFIs that look like nonsense. Like, don't do that. I actually have seen some where the government came back to a small business and said, oh, wow, it was DISA. You said that you did all of these things. Show me. And the company was like, oh, we never even read that RFI when it went in. That's what's exactly not to do, right?
Right, yeah.
So what I'm saying now to everybody is I want you to be invested. So when you pick an RFI and you decide to respond to it, be ready for that unsolicited proposal. Be ready to go meet with the government. Be ready to go all in on this deal, because why should the government go all in on you if you're not going to go all in on them? You're basically treating them like the way that you don't want them to treat you, but you are doing the same thing.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about risk, or maybe we were talking about risk on the way up to the studio. How do you think companies should be thinking about the risk calculation in today's environment? I mean, especially with regards to fixed price contracts and the mandate to move in that direction. I know this is a go-to market discussion, but I think risk plays into that calculation for companies.
I think we're at such a watershed moment for GovCon that the real risk is you acting the same and doing the same, that you will go out of business. All of those traditional GovCons that don't move and look alive and do things differently are going to be like Blockbuster in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest risk, honestly. But let me answer your actual question, which is around like firm fixed price and the risk perception. And by the way, a lot of this risk is around perception. So, and there's a new problem that pops up with the firm fixed price move. So I think I love the move to the firm fixed price, and I think most contractors know, especially software development contractors know, that's a better way to be. As long as you have a defined definition of done and you have a sprint cadence and good relationships with your cores and customers, then firm fixed price works in your favor, because you can put the teams together in the sizes that you need to be able to execute what you need to do. You can size up, you can size down, you can make it kind of work to deliver the work you have to deliver. Now, it gets tricky when the government buys firm fixed price and you put an AI accelerator in there that saves a ton of time. Are you going to still be billing for those hours that never were actually worked, even though it's firm fixed price? It goes in the face of entire model of what the government has bought forever, right? It changes everything.
Yeah.
So I had a big panel a while ago, and my good friend Don Bauer, who is, you probably know him too. He's very famous. I love him. He's so opinionated, and he was speaking from his perspectives on some of these things, and he was like, it's really tough for the government to buy outcomes because we've been buying labor.
I would agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we buy outcomes when we've been buying labor, and what do we do with this risk profile?
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of companies are coming to that realization, or should be, that bespoke labor is not what the government is interested in buying. You've got to, even if it looks on paper like a staff augmentation contract, I promise you it's not. They're asking you to develop capabilities. Give them a capability platform in addition to the people that are there. That's a great point.
And then how do you price it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then from the more interesting, exciting question we had, that whole panel was at a law firm, and I had a lawyer on the panel as well. What do you do with the data rights? Who owns that tool? Does the government, is it a GOTS? Is it a COTS?
Yeah.
Is it in between? Like, is there a thing in between?
Oh, we could go in a completely different, have another episode on commercial.
Yeah, we totally could. Absolutely. That's a whole other thing.
It is. Actually, we're probably going to be putting an article out soon about, the need for, hey, if you want to buy commercial, there are some behavior changes that come along with that on the government side. Because you now have to adapt to what commercial pricing really means, and that may not be as easy as some agencies think. I want to come back to the relationship aspect of go-to-market. How can agencies and companies find the ability to communicate again? Because I think that some of that has, you had COVID, and then, a lot's happened in the workforce. I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out who's left in the government, who can they talk to, who should they be talking to. How are you advising companies as they're thinking about go-to-market in terms of just, identifying the right people to build relationships with?
Right. So one of Forum's most popular offerings is our Access and Influence, which is the first part of that starts out with like an events scan, right? And some of these events, I'm not going to lie to you, I've been in this industry for a long time. Some of them are boondoggles. They really are. But that's kind of the point, because the government comes to these boondoggles. And then you can really have offline conversations with the government and talk to them and get to know them and understand who they are as humans. And this is such an important element of this whole thing that we're doing here, right? And so I actually did a training for the Department of Transportation earlier this week. About over 100 acquisition officers and cores were on the call. And they asked a very important question at the end. And because they asked it, it really changed my perception of this question. And they asked, we really want to attract more small businesses to work with the Department of Transportation. What can we do? And I was like, guys, from the outside perspective, it's looking real chaotic, right? You'll put something out over here, it'll completely disappear, it'll pop up over here with no communication. We need early and often communication. Do a draft RFP, do Q&A before the final, like step through the acquisition steps from jump and follow them, exactly. Have reverse industry days, have everybody come in and meet with your forecast leads, to meet with your program offices and walk through what's going to be coming down the pipeline. The more you can tell us what's coming, the more we can prepare as better partners for you, right? And so that was kind of my message to them, and I feel like industry has the same questions.
Yeah.
Right? So really, you need to be bringing government and industry together. So I'm going to be speaking at NCMA World Congress in Orlando. I don't know who put it in Orlando for the end of July. That was crazy.
It's going to be a little toasty, yeah.
But I downloaded the app yesterday and I started looking at who is attending it. And I was like, I don't know why all of GovCon doesn't come to this conference. Acquisition officer, core. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There's more buyers corralled in one conference than I've ever seen in my entire career.
Yeah.
So get out there to the right conferences with the right event strategy. Who are you meeting? What are you talking to them about? What is your approach? And by the way, does your capability statement look like trash, like hot trash? Does it look like it was 1982 called wants their capability statement back? And if it does, call me.
You're going to make me laugh. I'm trying to have a straight face here. That's a good one though, because a lot of companies they struggle with some of the basics. Like, what's the takeaway? What's the last thing that you're going to leave on the table before you exit that meeting? That's critical. That's critical. And frankly, I mean, this is, this podcast is about being real. I will tell you the vast majority of capability statements saw the circular file on the floor there, the trash can, because they didn't tell me anything, or they told me too much, as in, hey, I can give you the world,
right?
And you didn't offer any specialized expertise that would be pertinent to, what my particular mission was. So yeah. I think getting into the event space is critical for companies. What do you think about how companies should be positioning themselves with thought leadership, and how do they do that in a way where it doesn't come off as too self-promotional? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, this is a really good question. And another one of Forum's offerings is founder-led growth. From like LinkedIn and also other, like on your website, right? Having the blog section there and the LinkedIn and then your capability statement. All of these things need to be saying the same thing, right? But founder-led growth is another Silicon Valley term. And if you apply it to GovCon, which we've been doing, it's really like, how do you tell the stories that makes the government care about why you care, right? So I have a customer that I do this with, and he's a former Navy cryptologist. And he always brings that up in his posts. And it means something. It means that he cares about the data. He cares about the access. He cares about, different things than me, Alexa Tsui. My LinkedIn presence is like people like, yeah, she likes hip hop. She also likes country music. She's crazy. She doesn't mind being a little too authentic on LinkedIn, right? But I also talk a lot about go-to-market. And I think when it comes to the founder-led growth, it's not just what you put on your own LinkedIn page. It's like, what are the comments that you're leaving on other pages? Right before we walked in here, I saw one of the comments I made yesterday night has almost 2,000 views on just one comment. It was about go-to-market, and so I think you have to figure out, again, it goes back to that, what is your story? What is your Mike Derrios' story? And how do you keep that consistent and out there and relevant?
Yeah. So if you had to give a company, one piece of advice right now, and you just, that they're going to walk away with that one, sound bite, what would that be?
The go-to-market is a movement. And if you're not moving, you'll be left behind.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. So I think we're coming up on the close of our time together here. So we're going to start a little tradition with this podcast. And you are, in fact, our first guest, by the way.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
The purpose of the Baroni Center is to really serve as a bridge between government, industry, and obviously academia. And I would also offer, the everyday citizen, because a lot of people still don't understand this huge industrial base and the impact that it has on the American economy. And so we're trying to be that bridge. And so at the end of each podcast, we want to offer a bridging question. It's an opportunity for the current guest to leave a question for the upcoming guest.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Who's the upcoming guest?
You don't get to know that.
Oh, wow.
That's part of, and I'm going to use one of your phrases. I say GovCon a lot. You say GovCom with an M. Explain that really quick. I know why you do that, but explain that really quickly for people.
Yes. So the word GovCon used to get under my skin, and I never could figure out why until I had one Govy friend who's still a very good friend of mine, and he said, you know why? It's because it sounds like you're only talking about the contractors. When we are in this together, we are a government community.
Yeah.
And so that's where the word GovCom came from, and we kind of coined that word together.
I think that's great. Well, in the spirit of bridging the GovCom, we'd like to give you the opportunity to leave a question for the next person and kind of help us to put those planks in place for this bridge. In general, the question is, what should government contracting people, whether they're on the government side of the house or the industry side of the house, be thinking about or caring about in this moment in time?
So my question should revolve around that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the question that we didn't really talk about today, although could be a whole other entire podcast, was the small business market. So my question for your next guest is, what is happening and how do you advise small businesses on their next steps when they feel like their entire presence is unwanted?
Powerful. So I think, say again? Oh, take the glasses off. I think that wraps us for the day. Alexa, thank you so much for joining us on the Baroni Center podcast, and we look forward to entertaining your future appearance on the podcast again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you so much.
Take care. You've been listening to the Greg and Camille Baroni Center podcast, Inside the Business of Government, where policy meets practice. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our list and join us for more insights into evolving government procurement. Go to govcon.gmu.edu. That's govcon.gmu.edu. Thanks for tuning in.